Welcome, students, to Monk Meditation, the show about monks in the world of Warcraft.
The BTR has lost some spirit, race changes are in the air, we tackle community unrest, and every Brewmaster's a Shufflin. Coming up on Monk Meditation, episode 49.
Here's your host, Chai T.
Hello everyone, this is Chai T from Airy Peak, US. Happy to be back. And we're one away from the big 5-0 and everything be a-changing around here. Hold me, somebody. Welcome back to one of the top 2 monk-specific podcasts out there. I'm ahead of the curve, Chai T from Airy Peak, US. And we have a great show for you tonight. Alright, let's check in with tonight's host on how WoW is now in
Storm, Earth,
and fire!
And one of you has an echo going on. I'd like you to shut that off. Alright, and what time is it? It's airtime.
Airtime.
It's airtime.
Hi, everybody. Where am I? I jet lagged, awake. I've been on vacation 2 weeks. I've been in the lands of Scotland for a while now. It's been good, but so I have no idea what's going on. Apparently there are changes. Things have been happening. I guess a lot of stuff going on with the community. Some stuff happening with the podcast. Some stuff happening with another podcast.
Yep.
So,
Times be a-changing, sir.
yeah, so I had a lot of stuff to do before I left my little trip. I had to, finish up my dailies. Get my followers set, get the auctions posted, and then I realized I was pretty dirty. Like my suit of armor, as it were, was a little unpolished. So I made sure to do the 2-week spin cycle. Put my guy in the wash, got him through. I get back, I shrunk in the wash.
Uh-oh.
I cannot explain this, but somehow I'm a little bit shrunk now. So. Yeah.
So, in case anyone doesn't pick up on the subtle hints Air is giving, I have to change the promo again.
But he's not the only reason for that.
No. He's not the only reason for that, Leblue. How are things going, Leblue?
I'm still busy with looking for a job and whatnot. Most of my day actually today was getting stuff settled for school that I'm starting in the fall. In WoW news, I'm no longer Horde.
Good choice.
I am once again Alliance. I am now on the server Sargeras as a space goat. So you can say that I've got a bit more blue from being a panda. But I'm currently hanging out with Divide and Conquer. A little bit of what do we do with you, because there's bunch of people who want me to tank, including the GM, but at the same time I can't really hold them back because I can't guarantee anything right now.
Right.
So I'm kind of coasting along right now. At the very least, I'm going to try to be a warm body for Hellfire Citadel, but I did get to tank on my prop paladin on Thursday, and I got to kill the first 9 bosses of Hellfire, or not Hellfire.
I was like, wow,
Foundry.
really?
Yeah, I'm in the future. No, I got to kill the first 9 heroic bosses in Blackrock Foundry, so that was fun. And then my internet went to poop, and I couldn't do Black Hand.
Well, your internet's hung around for a little bit on Friday, and you came in with Rolling Thunder for us, and thank you for helping us during our Wipe Fest there. We are currently...
Yeah, it did not do that for last night, though. As soon as we pulled Cromog last night, when I finally got in from cleaning up some stuff around the yard, my internet spiked from 100 to 3,000 within 10 seconds of pulling the boss, and it stayed stuck like that for the rest of the night. So I was kind of
that's not gonna go so hot then.
Especially as a healer.
Not ideal.
Yeah. So Rolling Thunder, we are stuck. We are being stymied by Blast Furnace. I really don't like that fight anymore. Actually, I take that back.
Fight. I enjoy that fight.
I really enjoy that fight. It gives you stuff to do. It's not just a tank and spank. It has really interesting mechanics, but it is hard.
What? I just throw a statue, Russian Jade Wind, and AFK.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
If our team would pick up the bombs and move them in the right place, or the person who says they're going to dispel the spells, then Leblue, then we would be we get that taken care of. But Rectified, we got stuff taken care of. We took another 2 hours on Saturday, but we downed Black Ann, so we are now ahead of the curve.
All right.
So Mythic, prepare to kick my ass next week.
That Mythic stuff's pretty hard,
Yeah.
you know?
But it's more fun, in my opinion.
I'm
I like Mythic.
going to enjoy learning how to do Orgorger and do Bomberman. Should be fun.
Yeah, that one's not too bad, actually. That's not too bad at all.
Yeah.
So
Wargorger, Darmak, nowadays with the gear available, Gruul, none of those are really that bad. Hans and Franz actually isn't bad either, outside of people not sucking at stampers. Like that's the trick to it.
Yeah.
But I mean, Hans and Franz isn't bad. And then Flame Better, you kill Hans and Franz, that's a free tier piece right there.
Right. I'm looking forward to doing this. It should be a lot of fun. All right, well, it's time to get caught up in the crazy whirlwind of WoW news in
Dizzying haze.
So the devs are going to be doing a Q&A this Saturday, so there's a lot of questions going on in the community. 98% of them will be about flying, but if you would like to ask them a question, you can tweet them with the hashtag WarlordsQA.
And don't forget the obligatory picture of your pitchforks. Very important.
So I've tweeted them a couple questions already. I'd like to know the most effective way to get them feedback, and I also am concerned about Windwalker Multi-Strike. And the fact that we're bumping up against caps, and we all don't like caps and having to get rid of it. That's why we got rid of reforging, got rid of expertise and hit. So hopefully they'll talk about that.
In sort of related things too, with the dev Q&A, Celestalon made his first forum post in 7 months. Not on monks.
Not a monk, Shadow Priests.
But he did go to the forums and responded to a very large and long post made by a community member. So there is hope, so long as you keep out some of the vitriol that surrounds the community right now, as difficult as that may be. Of course, that doesn't necessarily mean we'll get an answer to anything, but they are looking. As much as some of us, including myself, sometimes want to say that they're ignoring our feedback, so that's a thing.
Yep. And
so if we,
go ahead. No.
I was going to say if we can somehow spam the forums with 7 months worth of posts and make sure that last one counts, we'll get our answers, right, guys?
I don't think
that's kind of how it works.
I mean, I don't think that's how that
works. So much communication with all of the different dev Twitter feeds. You know, there's a lot going on everywhere. And then as soon as it got condensed into this one account, like, has anyone done any math to see the number of tweets done?
Well, let's go ahead and table this, because we'll be talking about this a little bit more later.
All right.
All right. Hold it, Grumpy Cat. All right. So I've noticed that before every major patch, we have the devs going out doing interviews. We have Q&A sessions, things like that. 6.2 is coming, and it's coming soon, because the PR train is on its way, and Air is happy. So I'm guessing everybody seems to think June 23rd, and I think I'm on that boat.
Heaven's word.
Yep.
That is their MO.
Yeah.
That is their MMO. MMO. That is their MO.
That's their MO for them MO?
When they're planning out their release dates, they usually like to release things right alongside or even the week after a competitor releases something. And that's not unusual for them, and it's actually common.
I think I'll be okay with this, because my wedding is June 21st, and then I have 2 weeks of sabbatical where I don't have to do jack. So I will have 2 weeks of Tanan jungle and having fun. So I'm okay with that.
According to people who've actually been on it, it's Timeless Isle again. So
and I'm okay with
Timeless
that.
Isle, Tanan's not bad.
Yep, I really enjoyed
I'm a
Timeless.
huge fan of the Timeless Isle. I still go back there to try to get to work on the bigger bag achievement.
Yeah, your bloody coins thing?
No. The bloody coins I've tabled because I got by the mount. The title can weight.
Right.
That's 2,000 coin. It's ridiculous. But no, the bigger bag achievement, going through killing the rares, getting their super rare drops.
Oh, that's right.
That
Have fun with
silly
that.
Yep.
achievement. But
So
I'm
Tanan,
nearly through.
I saw there was a couple of items that you can get that allows you to just teleport to the nearest rare, or to a random rare on Tanan.
Interesting.
So I think that'll be kind of fun if that's what you like to do, is to do the rare thing. I think that was one of the biggest problems with Timeless Isle, is that you would get in the general chat, you would say, "Oh, so and so is up," and you're like halfway across the island, and you go run in there, and it's like you see it, and you're like 41 yards away, and it dies, and you didn't get the spell off, and so.
I mean, that's gonna happen. Like,
Right,
there's
but
nothing...
that's one of the biggest complaints a lot of people had about Timeless Isle, is one of the biggest annoyances. So now they've got the that item, so you can say, "Oh, so and so's up." Bam, hit it, you're there.
And then you go to a different rare.
Right.
Dadgummit.
But hey, at least that rare will be there. So that'll be kind of fun. So all right, anything you guys are looking forward to in 6.2 besides Hellfire?
Naval... No, I'm just kidding. I'm the... Hellfire.
Hellfire. All right.
I'm thinking a lot of the systems changes they're putting forth, in particular because of the auction house. And sometimes people need to make a little bit of money on the side, especially with that kind of WoW token thing up there. You know what I'm saying? Know what I'm saying? So for people who like glyphs, the change to milling is going to be very, very nice as well.
Yes.
Being able to mill, I think, 20 herbs at a time.
Yep.
The, like,
versus
3,000 herbs I have on my paladin and shaman will finally be used.
I hope that you'll be able to chain those.
Yeah, I hope that as well. I've spent 6 hours straight milling in the past.
It's painful, and we're the only ones left like that. So
yeah, little things like that. Some of the class changes look very interesting for sure. I know we are being shaken up a little bit.
yeah.
We don't want to be hasty on this call, but there's maybe some things that are going to change.
Now it's time to keep your spirits up while the world changes around you in...
The sky is falling! The sky is falling!
Uplift. Don't worry, I'm sure it happens to other monks too.
The sky's not falling, Coltrane, except for Mistweavers who like spirit. So, new PTR build included some major trinket revisions. So, that best in slot list I put out, yeah, you can ignore that now. The Intuition's Gift, this was a wonderful trinket out there that I knew was going to get nerfed. Because what they did is it was an intellect trinket, and then they added the same amount of spirit, so it had like 500-something intellect and 500-something spirit. So I knew that was going to get nerfed. So they nerfed it by about 33%, and unfortunately this puts it in the score realm underneath Elementalist Shielding Talisman from Blackrock Foundry. And so the current best in slot is going to be the Leech Trinket, which did actually get nerfed as well, but it's still our best, and the Shielding Talisman. I talked to Suplift about this a little bit, and... no, I'm sorry. Renor, I'm sorry. My bad. And he said it would be okay for a heavy fist-weaving fight, but usually the Black Hand Trinket, that's the intellect one with the multi-strike, that will probably be better for that. I still kind of like Intuition's Gift because it allows you to give a spectrum, because it will give you half intellect, half spirit, so a little bit more throughput, but not as much mana gone. So having all of them allows you to build your toolkit to the fight, which I think is one of the best things about Mistweaver in this expansion, is being able to build a toolkit specifically for a fight. So they felt that Revival was a little too powerful in range.
No.
For like
Wait,
all
what?
of... It's mostly a PvP change.
Mostly a
So
PvP change and a Blast Furnace change, probably.
Blast Furnace is not so big a deal, because obviously by the time you're really taking the damage, you're
in
together.
phase 2 and you're together anyways, yeah. But
You're together.
So they
It's-
shortened the range down from 100 yards down to 40.
Once again, PvP
Yeah.
hitting on PvE.
This is no big deal. I can't really think of a major encounter where you're more than 100 yards away and having to heal people.
No.
Or maybe it would be helpful, but
When your raid pulls trash and you're AFK at the entrance. Duh.
Yeah,
This is
good
true.
gosh.
This is true. All right. Windwalkers. What changes do they make, Air?
We're perfect.
Oh yeah, that's right.
You
Yeah.
basically got renamed to rogues, so have fun. There you go. Reroll rogue. That's the Windwalker change.
So I am really actually interested in the fact of how few changes to Windwalker there was in
Yeah.
6.2.
Or have been so far.
Right. And also the fact of our 2 and 4 piece. The fact that there are no major mechanic changes. It's just increase in the combo breaker type stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay with it. I actually like how Windwalker's feeling right now. And I just got some haste weapons, Warforged
Okay.
haste weapons off of Blackhand and Hans and Franz. And so I went like a full-on haste build with Chi Explosion, and that feels good.
Yeah, I mean, like, we were really worried at the beginning of this expansion that we would feel so slow, that we were going to be, you know, the Street Fighter method of playstyle that we've come to love at the end of Siege would go away, that, you know, rest in peace monks and our damage, and then things happened. Things were good.
Mm-hmm.
Things not so good, but then they got good again. And, you know, recently, yeah, the Windwalker's pretty smooth to play. We're still amazing on that, you know, that cleave fight. Let the burst AoE go to some other guys. And really, really strong single target still. And looking at everything else, we're still decently looking to be in a good place. I let the mathematicians, you know, take care of that specifically. But overall, I mean, we're not seeing massive change. We're not getting a big blanket nerf. We're not getting.
We're not
massive
getting a new
changes to
mastery.
Storm and Fire. We're not getting a new mastery. When was the last time that happened? I mean,
right?
So,
This is unprecedented.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be nice to see mastery. I mean, the mastery's getting a little bit nicer. It'd be nice to see it get as nice as some other classes personally, and have some things be very interesting. But yeah, we're still fast paced and good.
Yeah, it's actually going to be pretty darn nice because you're going to be getting back to that Street Fighter feel a lot more because you're going to have all those combo breakers popping, which means you have more chi. You're spending less energy on jab, so you're going to have more energy overall. So it's going to be a very very quick gameplay. So it's exciting. Brewmasters,
And
how are you feeling?
That's kind of like that's just There's good, there's bad, and there's kittens to be thrown. I mean, we've got a bunch of changes. Some I agree with, some I don't agree with. To sum it all up, though, if you don't have your 4-piece for Hellfire Citadel, well, I hope you're only doing normal or heroic, kinda. If you have your 4-piece, though, you're a god. Have fun.
Yep.
Good game. There you go. That is the TLDR.
All right. Well, I hear echo, and I'm gonna stab a kitty. Stop that. All right. Now, students, it's time to meditate and expand our knowledge in
Transcendence.
All right. It seems like every show I stumble across a tidbit of information that brings us a little bit closer to a fuller understanding of the monk class until at least patch 6.2. So here are some things we learned this week. I learned that the tier 18 extend life thing that we're talking about doesn't increase your, I mean, it only increases your own healing. It does not increase it from all other sources. So again, screw you disc priests. You don't get my extend life. I also learned Transcendence does not work on Blackhand Phase 2. So we were talking about that last episode to say
right.
give that a shot. So I tried it, and it gives you can't use that yet error, even though it's not on cooldown. So they did something interesting. They foresaw that we were going to abuse that and prevented it.
Yeah, but now you can just, like, hunters are allowed to abuse it. Was it Moonkin can abuse it a little bit, and or you can slow fall down into it at the very beginning. I mean,
yeah,
that's
Use it,
it's a
we
little bit
can't.
more planning.
right.
Everyone else can abuse it, just not us.
Right. All right, well, let's move into our main discussion topic. We've got 2 of them this week. 2 for 1. First one, we want to talk about some community unrest. So the mood of the WoW community, and I'm sure everybody in the dojo has felt this, it's been a little conflicted as of late. And we've noticed some notable members, like our own Daikatsu, who have left the game altogether or put their subscription on hiatus. So Blizzard is trying some new things in this patch, and anytime there is change, there will be a portion of the community that doesn't like it. So one of the biggest issues that a lot of people are having right now is a perceived lack of communication from the devs. As Leblue just mentioned, we saw Celestalon, who used to be very active on Twitter and the forums, make his first community post in 7 months. So I think that's a major issue. And as Air was saying, Warcraft devs, that Twitter handle came out and is supposed to condense down all of the different communication from all of the different devs into one Twitter handle where you can follow them, ask them, and it'll go to the right place and be responded to. Unfortunately, there seems to be a lot of silence there. Not very much communication coming out of Warcraft devs. So what are you guys' thoughts on this?
So what we've really seen here, looking at this from a logical point of view, is we've seen a swing from, we had a very, very active devs and communication, a lot of back and forth back in the, we'll call it the era of Ghostcrawler, where the devs all had Twitters, they were active on them, and they're always communicating, and that was kind of the, we'll call it the extreme. There's a very good potential that you could say that they were so active that it was actually cutting into development time with how often they were responding to things and checking things and whatnot. So the pendulum has kind of swung the other way right now, to where now we're funneled in, and it feels a lot more like we're not being listened to. We're almost being ignored. Obviously, you have people like Muffinus right now. He's been pretty active of late. And while you may not agree with all the things, he is at least saying that we are listening or responding to even little bits of feedback. And while a lot of us, myself included, will still be in disagreement with what's being said, it is there to note that they are trying. They're trying to find that balance, because we don't want them to be so engrossed in discussing things with the community and whatnot that they're either designing based on the mob mentality, which does happen. I mean, go look at class forums. Most of them, majority of the time, they're complete echo chambers, and all they want is buff us, nerf everyone else.
Right.
Not saying always, but it's true.
Nerf disc.
Nerf disc, right. But at the same time, we do want to feel like they're listening to us. And I think there's a bit of a balance to strike there. I think that might be upcoming. They might be kind of airing to that. Celestalon posting on the forums, I feel, is like a step in that direction. That said, the interesting part about that is traditionally in the past they've said they won't really engage the class forums because they're echo chambers. So that was actually kind of curious to me from that bit there.
Yeah, but if they're announcing some class changes and trying to explain it, that's a good place to do it. As if you post it in the main forum, 90% of players aren't going to give a crap about what you're doing with Shadow Priests. So
right, and I mean, so here's something with the community unrest I actually find is a very good point, and a lot of us have for a long time. A lot of people have been very easy just to jump on the hype train of new expansions in Blizzard and whatnot, and I feel like Warlords will make a lot of us much more intelligent consumers when we're looking at the next expansion. I mean, right now we have obviously the ability to buy game time with in-game gold, and expansions aren't that. And you probably all see like pre-orders and stuff down, but you'll have the WoW consumer be a lot more intelligent about going, do I want this expansion now, or do I just see if there's like potentially a drought in content, kind of like WoD, and they just wait till the end? And I think that's a good and bad thing at the same time. Probably good for us as a consumer, bad for WoW, though, so far as monetary gain potentially.
Right. Aaron, do you have any thoughts?
Well, you know, it's really nice when you have a kind of a central figure that is actually interactive. I mean, the old system of having every dev saying different things, and that can lead to problems, especially if they're not, you know, to the minute with communication. You know, if one guy will say one thing, one guy will say another.
Ever burn in candle, anybody?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
You know, we don't want any more of these something gates appearing because of that, you know? And the one thing that was nice about the old system was its sheer amount of communication. And right now, you know, it's not that much. Even though it might be, you know, specific questions being answered, we don't always see that. And having a single voice that's actually interactive, and maybe more than just a tweet would be nice. The one game that's been doing really well with that kind of stuff since their beginning is Destiny. You know, every week, the weekly Bungie update.
Right.
You know, a couple-page thing written about, hey, here's what's being talked about by the community. Here's our response. Here's ideas we're thinking about for the future. And you know, things like that.
Bungie has always
nice
been really good at that. They did that even back in the Halo days, where they had the weekly update, and having that kind of communication is good. However, communication is not discussion.
Yeah.
So I don't know how good Bungie is in actually like listening to comments on those posts and talking with people. That was one of the beautiful things on Twitter with. You mentioned the Ghost Crawler days, Leblue. I would say it actually hit its fever peak during the Ian days, right before and immediately after Warlords of Draenor.
I agree with you.
Yes.
And I think, but that was, I guess that was kind of a culmination, if you will, I would say,
Right.
because Ghost Crawler was
It
still a
started
part of
under
that.
Ghost Crawler.
I
That's
think they kind of started to rein in things when you got things like Candlegate.
right.
I mean, I think that was definitely a thing. And I mean, I guess on the communication thing, you'll note with a lot of people, particularly those who had spent a lot of time in the beta, alpha, putting in feedback, they felt there was a lot of problems they reported or felt like was a problem, and were in a lot of cases not fixed or ignored or whatnot, things that a lot of people said, and that kind of hurt. And then another thing was the alpha forums got completely wiped without warning, which I know a lot of people took offense to.
Right.
Like, because there were people who spent a lot of time putting in a lot of feedback, and that got completely wiped. So there are obviously missteps, and Monkey-O kind of nailed that in the dojo. They promised quite a lot to us, and obviously, when I say promise, I mean they made it sound they did Blizzard thing. They kind of said, this is kind of what we're trying to do, and to us it sounds like a promise because we're like, oh, big bright eye, like anime eyes, like with the sparkle and stuff when they say something, like Air is doing right now. But it's never a hard promise, so when they don't deliver all that, or the hype train goes buck wild like it did with Warlords, and it turns out we don't have all these things that we were expecting, even if it was a minor hint, all the way to a slide on BlizzCon, which nothing's ever truly final, as much as that hurts me to say that, because there were some things I wasn't happy about. But it's kind of that thing that makes you put it into perspective sometimes, and it's missteps that I think they're learning from. I hope they're learning from, because I don't think any of us really want to see this crash and burn.
It's been a thing since the very first expansion. Dance Studio in freaking
Dance
Burning
Studio.
Crusade, you know,
I
Dance
want to
Studio,
know
mounted
what
combat and
looks
flying.
like doing the female blood elf dance.
Right.
That's what I want to know.
So they've always, a Path of Titans, there are endless examples of these things that they announce and they're really ambitious and they want to do it, and then they get to playing it themselves and they say, this isn't fun, this isn't what we want to do.
Yeah.
And so that's one thing about, I don't want to get into the flying debate, but it comes down to, take a look at Apple computers. They listen to feedback, but they don't give an F most of the time. They make the product, they design it around themselves, and they say, okay, what is going to be the best product we can deliver? And they put it out, and people look at it and they say, well, I don't like this. Well, you know, I think, and the designers say, too bad, that's actually the best thing we can make. And while I doubt Blizzard is like that, it seems to be more that approach that they're trying to go, especially in regards to flying right now. They're saying that all the feedback we've gotten and all of the game play testing that we've done, etc., it is a better game without flying. There's a lot of people yelling and saying they disagree, but these are the game designers. These are the people who have gone to school in game design. These are the people who know how to make a game and have let us to excellent games for the last decade.
So here's I'm gonna jump in here.
Yes.
Not necessarily all of them gone to gameplay. Actually, a lot of them haven't. But
Right.
beside that point, I think you need to look at video game and game design almost as a work of art.
Mm-hmm.
It is very subjective in what you might
Yeah.
find fun or interesting. Like, one person might not like flying or might not mind it's gone. Another person might, for example. All right? I'm not saying either side is wrong. Now, what we do have happening almost is a sort of generational shift here. We're obviously moving from a time when that was accepted, that that's what you did at max level, to where it's not. And a lot of players are obviously disappointed because we've had it for about 8 years.
Right.
Or about 7 or 8 years right
Yeah.
now. So it's ingrained, and the fact that I don't fault them for going that. It's more of how they went about it. If they had said at Warlords, like in their Blizzard thing, like at BlizzCon, or early on said, hey, in the future we're not going with flying, and it felt like people were being led on, that was the biggest issue. If they think it's going to be a better game for them and people enjoy it, that's fine.
All right,
That
how
is-
about
it is
counterpoint,
it's
though? Counterpoint to that. Warlords is coming out. They have made a decision, no flying to start off with. They know it's a big bomb to drop saying no flying. And they felt themselves no flying was beneficial, was like good for the game, makes a better gameplay experience.
Yeah.
But they want to know what the experience is for the mass amounts of people. They want the feedback. They want to know how everybody feels. And so the community, I don't speak for everybody, but I say the general feel of the community when 6.0 dropped, I was hearing, yay, don't bring back flying. This is fantastic. We love this.
And I heard the opposite. So
Yeah. No,
it
it's
depends where you look.
right. Depends where you look.
Yeah.
But the main community, the outcry that I was hearing was positive. Whereas now it's overwhelmingly negative. You feel that in the community. But
And like a lot of this is subjective though. Like you said, there, like what you heard a lot of was, "Yay, flying's gone." What I heard a lot of, "Can't wait for 6.1, so we have flying again," which obviously didn't happen.
Right.
And like I said, it's not wrong. It's where they're taking their game.
Mm-hmm.
However, some people no longer like the work of art that is World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
Thus, you're going to see a lot of people, well, for lack of better words, voting with their wallet.
right.
They don't like it anymore. If there's enough things they feel personally has gone wrong and in their opinion is the wrong direction or what they don't want to play anymore, they won't pay for it.
Right.
And that's just how that's how it's going to be.
Yeah, it's. I think flying is a red herring, but I don't want to get into that whole debate really.
Probably not a great idea for
Right.
a monk show.
Right. So, but that's one thing that is resulting in this community unrest, and the communication issue is one of the biggest things. And I feel like the pendulum's swinging back. We're getting the dev interviews. We're getting this Q&A where Celestion's making posts. I'm seeing more devs posting on Twitter. But where is the balance? Because as you said, and I believe this to be true, the devs are spending so much time looking at feedback, looking at Twitter, looking at forum posts, reading forums, wading through the bull crap that people are posting, because for every good poster out there that's putting reasoned, thoughtful, insightful feedback, you have 20 others saying, I don't like this nerf disc.
And that's about like at 1 to 100, basically.
Right.
I
Fair,
think
though.
that's
It
probably
is.
a very generous thing. And I agree.
Yes.
You have to wade through a lot of crap to find the gems. I agree.
And so from a development standpoint, where do you draw the line? Because I liked the Warcraft devs. I liked the purpose of it. It hasn't come to fruition. It hasn't been its focal point. It's like that community manager's job to read through the feedback, determine what is good, insightful feedback, get that to the developer and responsible, get a communication from them, and get that back out to the person. That is awesome. I like that because I got confused sometimes when I was like, okay, does this go to Celestion? Does it go to Regarius? Does it go to, who does this go to? And posting to one channel would be awesome. And unfortunately, it just didn't turn out that way. So where do we want to strike that balance between communication and the devs actually putting their nose to the grindstone, getting us the next expansion faster?
I mean, it's definitely something they're going to, as they do with everything, they're going to iterate on it. I think we'll see them kind of swing a little bit more towards they respond more and stuff. I mean, like I said earlier, Celestalon posted on a class forum, which is huge because that's never really happened before. Because again, they've been labeled echo chamber for years. So I see it swinging back a little bit. Don't be too surprised if you see a few more kind of pop up like that when they find a really nice post in there again, because I think they're going to be trying to kind of get some of the community's goodwill back. I mean, and then I would say one other really major misstep they made recently, very recently in fact, is the announcement of no flying as we move forward through a third-party site like that.
That's what they announced no flying to begin with, was on the Instance podcast after BlizzCon.
After BlizzCon.
Right.
I mean, it's so. I mean, they knew it was such a hot button topic that I think it would have done better in a dev water cooler or something. I think that would have been better. And I feel like them trying to say, oh, well, this will spread to more people was a little bit misleading, because I'm going to ask you this. If they put something like that on the main site, do you think MMO and all kinds of other gaming sites would have still picked it up?
Right.
I'm pretty sure it would have picked up in a heartbeat and spread like wildfire. They did it just, and it might not have been the intent. I will give them the benefit of the doubt that was not the intent to mislead the community, but it feels like they're kind of trying to brush it under the rug. And when somebody asked about it, or like, when did you guys say there'd be no flying?
Yeah, no, I don't think so, because no matter where they put it, that's being spread everywhere. So,
but it just feels misleading to slide it into another, because I'd never heard of Polygon before this.
Right.
I didn't know that they did articles on WoW or anything. And then suddenly this thing has this really big chunk of news. I mean, they could have put it on the main site, and I feel that was a misstep. It was probably on accident. I don't doubt the intent behind the developers, but it does feel like a pretty big misstep that a lot of people are going to take as an offense.
What do you think, Aaron?
I'm an optimist. You might know this, so I mean, I don't think they're trying to necessarily mislead people. I think that they're learning from the mistakes. 6 months of really nothing. Maybe everybody went to PR school and took classes, and I mean, we're seeing a bit of an upturn. That's a good thing. Obviously, we are getting closer to a new patch as well, so that's typically when we know there's going to be a lot more talking about things too. So, we've seen both sides, so hopefully the tide evens out a little bit now, and we don't want to. Hopefully, it just continues to get better. Blizzard is known for iterating. They love that word, iteration. So they're going to keep iterating on the game, and hopefully they're also iterating on their own community feedback as well.
Right. Yeah, and I honestly think my thought on the lack of discussion is they're putting their nose to the grindstone and trying to get 7.0 out before we have another Siege of Orgrimmar.
Especially with 2 raid tiers. That's huge.
Right.
Because if we only have 2 raid tiers and we have a Siege of Orgrimmar thing, that is going to be a massive slam to them as a company.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know WoW isn't their big ticket item anymore. Hearthstone now has that.
And
but
Heroes.
It's still a big thing. It is still a big thing for them to do that.
Yep. All right. Well, let's talk about some Shufflin. All right, Aaron Leblue.
Can I actually talk about monks?
Yes.
What?
Yeah, Aaron Leblue, you guys both have been doing some brewmastering, and Leblue Echo, for God's sake. All right, so Shuffle has been modified, and this is a big deal, a change in play style. And so, Leblue, you want to take that over a little bit?
Change has actually been known for quite a while. Shuffle lost its stagger component. Instead, all of our stagger has been moved baseline, whether that be the base stance or through the mastery stat. Now, the Shuffle buff itself merely gives 10% parry. Mind you, the original incarnation of Shuffle back in Mists of Pandaria was 20% parry and 20% stagger. In Warlords of Draenor, it's been 10% of each, and now it is down to just 10% parry. It's particularly in an instance we're going into where magic damage is the big dangerous thing. We're going to be at a tier where physical damage isn't as big a deal. It's a much more insignificant buff. It's not that it's not insignificant in that you shouldn't use it, but it's not going to be the priority it currently is. And this does have the side effect of making it so that if you're a player who just had a hard time with Shuffle, didn't quite understand Brewmaster for whatever reason, and there are quite a few of those people, that's actually part of the reason that Brewmasters got buffed as heavily as they did right before Highmaul, then this is actually going to help you out a good bit, particularly because the real playstyle changes don't actually really ramp up until you get your 4-piece in Hellfire Citadel, and at that point you probably have some proficiency at your class.
Okay, so Mizume Monk posted on the forums, and he got quite a bit of discussion going, saying, why are people complaining about taking away Shuffle from Blackout Kick? Because it wasn't an engaging mechanic. And I tend to agree with that. I actually, if we went back into the tapes, and I wish I would have done that for effect, that's exactly what I said when we learned this. And I said, Shuffle was not engaging. It's like, it wasn't a good gate mechanic for distinguishing a bad Brewmaster from a good Brewmaster. Okay, a horrible Brewmaster, yes, but they're going to die from other stuff as well. So
I agree. It was a very low bar to set for a raider, like an actual, I raid all the time, I do a little bit of research. It was a very low bar to set. And I agree with that. As it stands in its current iteration right now in 6.1, Shuffle is not interesting. Shuffle was slightly more interesting, or actually a thing to worry about, in 5.4, 5.3,
when you
and all that.
didn't have Serenity and Chi Explosion.
Serenity and Chi Explosion, and I've said this for a while now, you know I've said it, that it completely killed any sort of resource balancing act. And in 5.4, we were closer to a resource game where you were balancing Shuffle versus Purifying versus Guard. That kind of was a thing. You could if you weren't smart, or if you had lots of downtime, you could still actually drop. 6.0, 6.10, point whatever, Warlords dropped. Suddenly we have Serenity. Suddenly it doesn't matter. Or we have Chi Explosion. Again, doesn't matter as much. They kind of already had made it irrelevant, whether intentional or not. That happened. That was a thing. Now we have a combined thing of Purifying being less of a thing as well, because with our lower base stagger, our stagger is going to get lower, isn't going to be as high. We're going to see red far less often, and Purifying simply isn't going to be a big a deal, which effectively amounts to resource management for Brewmaster has largely moved away from Chi and into energy.
Right. Having that available when you need it. Yep.
Right, which kind of gets into the next bit about this. All right. Am I on record? You ready?
All right, I've got you up here. Let me get the quote. Okay, go.
Okay. For Hellfire Citadel, as it stands right now, it looks like with 4-piece, Ascension will be the best level 45 talent for Brewmaster.
What?
Right.
Okay, why don't you explain that a little bit?
Okay, so as I already said, Chi has been heavily devalued. Shuffle has lost some of its strength. That actually already kind of occurred when more of the damage was moved from physical, like Blackrock Foundry, to magic in Hellfire Citadel, but not as bad. But now that it doesn't have stagger at all, it loses a lot more of its value, because auto attacks aren't generally what threaten us. The 2 and 4-piece heavily favor haste.
Right,
like
expel
a
harm.
lot. Because expel harm, and then expel harm reducing the cooldown on guard, and so we can get even more frequent guards. Because what's going to happen is, outside of guard, your health is going to kind of spike a bit more, because we're going to take more upfront damage. So when you drop below 50%, you expel harm, and that pooling of energy is actually going to become even more key. And I'm going to say this right now. There are going to be instances that you do not Keg Smash on cooldown. That's how big this is. Because
Wait,
when
you
it comes
don't
to
Keg Smash on cooldown.
Correct. Because
Wait, huh?
because you're going to spike hard enough to where you're going to drop below 50% enough to where you will want to save it for Expel Harm because it makes you 5 seconds closer to a guard. And it's going to be very easy for you to bank 2 chi at all times without losing too much. And you're not even going to need to purify as often because of how much lower your stagger is going to be. Now, for more damage, you're going to Keg Smash on cooldown still. But that is something as a finer point to Brewmaster you need to keep in mind that defensively, just pooling for guard or for Expel Harm is more important. And that's a huge game changer because right now it is Keg Smash on cooldown nearly no matter what unless you are like on death's door. It's crazy. There's a lot of craziness going on right now with this. A lot of people are going, what? But to put it in perspective, one of the trinkets from Hellfire Citadel, the Warlord's Unseeing Eye, I believe it is a massive chunk of haste, which makes Ascension better, as well as a very potent damage reduction based on your health. And since we're going to be lit lower because of how much upfront damage we take with Expel Harm being our main recovery mechanic, it's going to be a very strong progression trinket, so which, again,
so you
adds
guys are
more
getting
value.
a complete playstyle change here.
It's going to be a lot more like 5.4, where we're going to be relying a lot on Expel Harm to save our bacon when we can. Because that was definitely a thing with Vengeance where it was a lay on hands. It won't quite be a lay on hands, but it's going to still be very potent, especially when you toss that guard up that just came back up off cooldown because of your 4-piece, and then you can heal yourself back up very quickly. And this also has a bit of an effect on our stat priority for tanking as well. Previously, your stat priority was for tanking was Mastery, Crit, Versatility, Multi-Strike, and then way in the back was Haste. This has changed a little bit. Now we're looking at a Mastery, which is still far better than the other stats for tanking, Crit, which then is roughly equal to Haste, believe it or not, in tankiness, which is better than Versatility, which is roughly equal to Multi-Strike. Multi-Strike falling down because of the Tiger Strike changes, no longer proccing off Multi-Strikes.
Right.
Which thus makes Multi-Strike less valuable in
And
that
plus
respect.
you're going to get more multi-strike from Tiger Strikes when it does proc, so you need less of it overall.
Right, and the haste makes your auto attacks go up as well, which then causes that value to pop up more frequently.
Cause you to hit more Tiger Strikes. Okay, I see where you're going with that.
Said, because you can't ignore the other half of the equation, Mastery and Haste are both our worst 2 DPS stats. So when you're building your gear, particularly early progression, you want to weigh the balance of Mastery and Haste versus your other DPS stats for tight DPS checks or when you're farming for Scumbag. Also keep in mind that multiple pieces of our tier have Haste on them as well. So we don't have that much of an option when it comes to that. And so at that point it becomes maximizing your set bonus when it there. And
So it's all about survivability with haste.
Haste is mostly a survivability stat, yes. It's not that great of a DPS stat. If you were looking for a DPS, it is going to be multi-strike, crit, versatility, mastery, and haste.
So,
or haste mastery.
I know you said you can basically take jab off your bar. Is there any point for blackout kick at all anymore?
It's a chi dump. If you have nothing else to use chi on, you want to dump it. Serenity still will actually be the progression talent of choice, believe it or not, because you can still build up a bit of Shuffle. Shuffle isn't entirely irrelevant, it's just not as good. You still want to keep Shuffle where absolutely possible, because it still does end up reducing auto attack damage, especially alongside Elusive Brew. You have a huge chunk of dodge. I think it's somewhere around 70-some% avoidance with everything up.
So how do you
That's
get
not
Shuffle now?
Blackout Kick.
I thought they removed that from blackout kick.
No, they removed this. They removed Stagger from Shuffle. Shuffle still has the parry bonus.
Did they put that back in? Because I know they removed it from blackout kick.
It's always been there. They took Stagger from Shuffle. That's what they did.
Okay.
Blackout Kick still has Shuffle. Shuffle no longer has Stagger. So It's still a thing, but it's not as important.
Forgive me, I'm furiously typing trying to look this crap up because I was like 100% sure they were.
So what you're saying is that for progression fights, the Gnome Brewmaster is the way to go. For survivability.
Yeah, energy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's
Mm-hmm.
see.
What I thought.
And going to live. Hold on. And your stagger amount by an additional 10%. Okay, so it increases your parry chance by 10%, but remove the stagger amount by an additional 10% for 6 seconds. Okay, so you still get... Okay. All right.
Mazer is for Alliance, at least. So off the top of my head, Pandaren is still the best because you can double your mastery.
Yep. Panda Master Race. All right. Any last thoughts on the Brewmaster and Air?
I mean, it's without having to keep it up all the time. You know, there was another class that had a similar buff like that. One of them was us, with when we used to have some ridiculous mechanics with having to keep up Tiger's Palm. 3 stacks and then we can do it.
Oh yeah,
Rat
that was
Pallies,
dumb.
Inquisition. Yes, keep up this buff all the time to do 30% more damage, something like that. So that's 20 to 30%, and they just made a baseline. So I mean, it's like these buffs that we have to keep up, and we've talked about keeping Tiger Palm, making it baseline as well too, just because it's a kind of a silly buff you just need to keep up. It's not really engaging. It's not really fun.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it seems like they're doing that with more than just one class. And I mean, it does make things a little bit more interesting, especially now with the other playstyle changes with Brewmaster. What I'm seeing and watching Twitch and reading about, I don't have PTR on my new computer yet, so
yeah. Unfortunately, I don't
it's
think we're going to
interesting,
get
sure.
rid of Tiger Palm because of the interaction with Chi Explosion on Windwalker, as well as the interaction with Vital Mists in Mistweaver. So it has its place. It's not completely irrelevant because we don't have anything else that uses 1 chi or an odd amount of chi except for Fist of Fury.
Right. And I guess as kind of my closing point, I personally like resource games, but with Warlords of Draenor, the potential for Shuffle to be any part of that resource game is dead. And it is going to end up being fine because they did end up making a playstyle change that isn't that bad to do.
Right.
If they had left things as they were, like literally didn't make the set bonus as it was and make the gameplay more around pooling energy and using expel harm, then I'd have a much greater issue with it. It's more of a, at this point, I'm mildly annoyed that the potential for resource management is gone because Purify and Shuffle aren't quite as powerful as they were. That said, Purify they could make more important by having the duration.
Yeah, they really need to do that because, like you said, getting to Red Stagger doesn't happen that often anymore. So
I think that might be something we see with like maybe 7.0 or something as a change.
Right.
If they maintain this relative level of stagger. Because otherwise, it's not that big a deal in a raid environment. It still will be something in a dungeon environment, a small group environment, when you don't have a paladin healer, or coming in 6.2, all the healers have some sort of massive amount of passive healing on you to take care of those smaller staggers. But in a raid environment, it's just not that big of a deal, to be quite honest.
Okay. Well, it's now time to travel to the Peak of Serenity, the home for all monks in
Zen Pilgrimage.
Monks, assemble!
All right, the Windwalker multi-strike tool has been updated yet again. It's actually, the thing is still the same, but it is available for 6.2. It'll show your 6.1 and 6.2 stats together. But it has moved to its new home at multistrike.gamergadgets.net. So I am now the proud owner of GamerGadgets.net. It will be in my portfolio for all of the gaming tools out there, not only for World of Warcraft, but also tabletop games like Shadowrun. So feel free to head over there, take a look at that. Again, that's GamerGadgets.net. Salad Senate on Airy Peak CTR Guild is looking for a Mistweaver main spec, Windwalker off spec for heroic progression in Blackrock Foundry. They are currently 6 of 10 heroic. They raid Wednesday and Thursday nights at 7 to 10 p.m. server time, and that is Pacific.
Pacific time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Candidates can contact the team through Chili Cheese Fryer. It's CHLICHZFRIAR, or if that's really too hard to remember, Copperlight. And so if you...
On US Airy Peak.
Yes, US Airy Peak. And if you are looking for a monk for your guild, we happen to know a few. You drop us a line at show@monkmeditation.com or hit us on Twitter at monk_meditation. We'll be happy to announce that on the show. All right, questions from the dojo. We have one question. This one's directed to Air from Mazer. Why? If you were not watching the video, you must watch the video now. All right, from Acid Sweet, we have, since you talked about 7.0, do you think this 2-tier expansion is going to become the norm? I honestly think that is going to be what they shoot for. I honestly like 3 tiers because it lets you get into the swing, and I love those middle tiers. Those middle tiers are always really solid. They give you interesting mechanics to make up for the fact that it's not very story driven. But like Old War, one of the best ones, best raids out there.
Another really good one, Firelands with Ragnaros.
Firelands was really good. Throne of Thunder is often thought of as the best raid in Mists of Pandaria. So having those middle raids are always good. It lets them get your feet wet, and you're not completely overpowered like you are in the last tier of the expansion. It gives you kind of a good middle ground to work with, and it gives us Rut-Row, which I'd be okay with them not doing again. But I would prefer them to do 3, but I'm pretty sure they're going to be gunning for 2.
I know, didn't it? Wasn't there something said recently how, we're not done telling the story yet?
Right. We can't confirm that this is the last tier.
I'm pretty sure there'll be like a story patch. Like they'll do 6.3 will be the story patch we didn't get in 6.1. I personally think that they're going to try. They're definitely aiming for 2 raid tiers. I think this expansion, from a consumer point of view, I feel like I get more value for my expansion money if I get 3 raid tiers because that's the content that I prefer. And this is again personal. This is how I feel about it. I feel almost like I'm getting a little cheated if I only get 2 raid tiers and we paid a little bit more for this expansion.
Yeah, this expansion was more expensive, wasn't it?
It's $50 instead of $40.
Huh.
So we paid a little bit more for potentially less raid content. I would be misleading if I didn't say that didn't bug me at least a little bit.
Right.
So I really hope Hellfire Citadel was really solid and really good and makes me feel like it was worth it. And I hope future expansions make me feel like it was worth it to pay that little bit of extra for less.
What did you think about Tier 17 overall?
High Mall? I actually liked High Mall a lot. I like Blackrock Foundry. If Blackrock Foundry had a different theme that wasn't
more Siege of Orgrimmar 2.0.
It feels if you had put a tunnel going from Garrosh's room to Blackrock Foundry and it was another wing, I believe it because it's a very similar theme, and that's probably one of my biggest issues with it, to be quite honest. As a tier, mechanically, outside of the very obvious issues of we forgot we have this class called Brewmaster, I felt pretty good about the tier. Class issues notwithstanding.
We were talking about this during GroupMe a little bit earlier in the week, that they went into this tier in this expansion specifically trying to avoid the whole off-tank taunt on X stacks, and that's all you do. And I went through the mental exercise and went through every boss, and they nailed it. It's like, now, did they make the mechanics that you do outside of that interesting? Sometimes they failed in that, but they gave you something else to do on every single boss encounter. So I think they get an A in that.
But then you fall into the discussion of their healing model kind of fell through.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've noticed this already, and it kind of fell, the falling through part actually fell really hard on the tanks, because outside of like monks and to an extent death knights, I don't know about guardian druids, but I know for prot paladins and prot warriors, they're very dependent on their healers to keep them up, including their externals.
Right.
And that is a huge problem right now. And in the tanking community in particular, there's some people who are like, I'm done going DPS, because a lot of the fallout has come onto tanks,
Right.
because they're trying to make healer gameplay engaging,
Right.
and it's kind of like, well, we can hurt this group of people, which is larger, or kind of give a bit of the shaft to this smaller group. I mean, it's not an ideal situation, and it's obviously not intentional, but I feel like things have kind of fallen through, and I'm hoping that going forward it gets better.
Yeah, it's. I think they did a decent job in a lot of the fights overall. I'm looking mainly at like Cromog, Blackhand, Blast Furnace, where there's a lot of AoE damage that's manageable. Someone gets hit, they're not immediately going to die. It gives you time to kind of heal them back up, unless you're just not paying attention, and then they do die. There's very few of the like one-shot mechanics where you feel you had nothing you could do. So I think they did okay on some of the encounters, but then a lot of the other ones you just out-gear it and you drop 2 healers and you just DPS it down and don't care.
Then I have a particular insight with the current expansion as well.
Fire. Go for it, Air.
Go for it.
Fire. So, Blue, you were talking about the fact that we're paying an extra $10 for warlords, orc lords of Orknur. And yeah, I mean, two raid tiers does feel a little bit shy, especially considering the other content that we have not necessarily gotten. There's a lot to do, but it's not what we've come to expect, especially considering the rich content we have with Mists of Pandaria. Personally, that extra $10, I think that's just your property tax payment on your garrison.
But he's here all week, folks.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I think that once we get rid of garrisons come next expansion, awesome. There's a gravestone in our garrison, Ray D tier. We would have 3 except for the garrison. It says it right there. So next expansion, same price, 3 raid tiers confirmed.
Is there actually a gravestone in there?
Yeah, go to your.
There is a
garrison.
gravestone called Ray D tier. If you go to the little, I don't know if it's in the Horde one, but the Alliance one, if you go out of your garrison town hall thing, right before the entrance, you take a right, and you go up right past the tree where those hippies, aka druids, took up residence, and you're in there.
God,
there's a little gravestone.
I love Blizzard sometimes, They're fantastic.
Because they're jerks like that sometimes. I mean, and we'll see. We will see if they continue with that, or if they go, okay, this isn't a good idea. They really want to do 2 raid tiers per expansion. We will see. I've said this several times now. I think we as WoW players are wising up a little bit as consumers, and I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of us are more conservative with buying expansions and aren't as easily taken away on the hype train, because the WoD hype train took a lot of us, and then it crashed, I would say.
Yep. All right. Well, I think it's time to put the brew away. So please rate us on iTunes.
The Grimrail Depot.
What?
That's why that train crashed in the Grimrail Depot. It was the WoD hype train.
Yes.
That's it.
There it is. All right. Please rate us on iTunes, Stitcher, subscribe on YouTube, or on Twitch.tv. And if you would like to help support the show, make it grow, and get even better, you can become our boss by going to patreon.com/monkmeditation. You can help guide the future of the show and get some fun rewards along the way. All right, Air, got any shout-outs?
Shout out to a good friend who just got back to the game. He goes by the name of Sunletters, and he's this priest, holy priest. He is the priest, the light upon the earth. And it's good to have him back in the game after 8 months. And yeah, shout out to working as intended, because he had a bit of a break. Now it's time to have some fun, get back in and get ready for 6.2!
Yeah, 6.2! All right, Leblue, got any shout-outs?
You divide and conquer and taking me in while I figure out my life and whatnot. And hello to all Premeditated who I used to raid with. I miss you guys. Well, some of you guys.
All right, and I want to give a shout out to Rectified for getting ahead of the curve. And Rolling Thunder, let's get Blast Furnace down, please. And I also want to give a shout out to Lady Chai for keeping me sane during all this wedding prep. We're going to get it done, just 3 weeks away. Let's just get it done with and over with. All right, as part of the Monk community, if you have a blog, website, or person you want to see on the show, please reach out to us via email at show@monkmeditation.com. The Monk community is the best one in the world of Warcraft, and we want to showcase it. Hey, Leblue, how can the dojo best reach us?
You can follow the show at monk_meditation. Follow Chai T at wowmonk. Follow Air at airwalker. And you can follow myself, Leblue, at Kagarai_Leblue.
All right, and thank you all for listening. You can watch us live Monday, June 15th, 2015 for episode 50 at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, midnight UTC at twitch.tv/wowmonk. For episode 50, we're going to be having some returning hosts stopping by for a visit, as well as introduction of our new co-host. Visit monkmeditation.com for links to all the ways to watch and listen to the show. That'll wrap up this episode of Monk Meditation. May your brews be strong.
Brews be strong. And your heart stronger.
Good night, everybody.
I rolled a 20.